Hey everybody, okay, so I'm finally doing my breastfeeding video, y'all. I'm sorry it took me so long. I just, been busy with having a baby and stuff. Okay, so I just want to start off by saying that I am not trying to make anyone feel any type of way, whether you breastfed or not. If you're not breastfeeding, then I really don't know why you're watching this video unless you just like to watch me talk. But if you could not breastfeed for whatever reason, or you tried, or you just didn't want to, that is your business, that is your body, your baby, your choice. I am only doing this to try and help anyone that I possibly can, because I struggled with breastfeeding, and I know that I would have loved to have someone similar to me who is very honest and very real and is just going to keep it very straight to the point, that I could have kind of watched this video beforehand, like before when I was still pregnant, or right whenever Kingsley was first born and I wanted to throw in the towel. So my son, if you don't know, Kingsley, he is 3.5 months. He'll be 4 months July 25th, I think. Yeah, that's right. So he had a tongue tie, he had a lip tie, we got that revised. I may or may not get to that in this video. I'm going to try my best to keep it short and concise and stay to the point. Again, this is not medical advice. This is just a mama's personal experience, some advice that I got that did not work for me, some advice that I got that did work for me, and then what I learned along the way. So I hope that I can keep this light and funny and not too serious, and let's pray my baby does not wake up. If he does, I will run and grab him, bring him in here, and he'll just be part of the video. You may even get to see me breastfeed him if he does wake up from his nap. So we will cross that bridge when we get there. I'm really not going to show my nipples or anything in this video, so if you're here for that, you can go ahead and turn that right off. Okay, so I'm going to just start off by saying that breastfeeding is a physiological response. It is just as important to a baby as breathing, as their heart rate, as everything else that goes on in their body that is physiological. It should be just a reflex for them. So if there is something going on and your baby is having issues from day one, you need to see a lactation consultant or a professional. I will say that a lot of pediatricians know nothing about breastfeeding, hardly anything. There are a select few that do. If you have a pediatrician that's very good with breastfeeding and tongue and lip ties and things like that, congratulations, there's not very many. I personally had to switch my pediatrician because we did not see eye to eye on a lot of things, and one of them was breastfeeding. So just know that your pediatrician is not always going to be the best person to consult, and there are lactation consultants. Insurance will cover that for you, so look into that in your region if you're having issues literally from day one. From the moment that baby comes out of the womb, it is so important to start that connection, that bonding. So you have what's called the golden hour when a baby's first born, right? So they are straight out of the womb, they're there. If you can, do skin to skin immediately afterwards and keep that baby with you as much as you can. My son did not leave my side until it was time for me to deliver my placenta, and then I gave him to my husband, and he did skin to skin with my husband, and then he came back to me, and then he went to my mom, and then back to my husband, and then we got home 4 hours later. Both of us were shirtless for 3 weeks, and we did skin to skin for 3 weeks. I do skin to skin constantly with my baby. We sleep naked together. Sleep is a whole nother subject. I'm not going to get into that because that is just a whole other realm. But anyways, skin to skin is so important. There's lots of research that you can look up, but basically it helps them to regulate their body temperature, so it keeps them from getting too cold or too hot. It helps their heart rate. It helps them stay calm. It helps them regulate their sleeping patterns, their circadian rhythm. I mean, like, it is so important. Skin to skin is so important, and if you can't do that because you have a C-section or there's some sort of complication, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your mom, your younger child can actually do skin to skin with your baby. So as long as you're getting that, sometimes they call it kangaroo care. Skin to skin is so important. I can't stress that enough. Okay. Also, just a fun fact: kissing your baby actually changes their breast milk. So you kiss your baby, right? So skin to lips, mwah, and you take any germs that are, or pathogens that are on their skin. It goes inside your body, into your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system creates antibodies. Well, not your lymphatic system, but anyways, antibodies are produced in your body, which help fight infection, and it helps boost their immune system, and that goes back into your blood, back into your, what is this called? Breast milk, and then you're feeding that breast milk to your babies. So there's some sort of statistic, I don't remember the exact length, but it's like if someone can sneeze within 100-yard radius or something, and your body is already producing antibodies against that sneeze to protect your baby. So that being said, breastfeeding is basically like giving your baby natural immunity, and like without vaccines or anything, which I'm not going to get into that either because it's a whole other topic. But just breastfeeding alone is so vital for your baby. Okay, so from day one, we've talked about the golden hour in the first few weeks of their life. You're going to be skin to skin with that baby as much as you possibly can. All right, so as soon as they're born, they're going to have a super wakeful period. So like as soon as they're born, they're going to be just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for a couple of hours. This is so important to make sure that they can latch at that point, because they're going to get their first feed, which is equivalent to like their first set of vitamins. It is so important for them. Every drop counts when it comes to breast milk. I didn't write the statistics down, but something like 1 drop contains 3 billion particles of magic. I don't know, that's obviously not true, but you know what I mean. So that being said, from the very beginning, even if your baby only gets that first feed, or you breastfeed for 3 months or 6 months or 6 years, it's every drop counts really. So they're going to be very awake the first few hours. Feed them and make sure that they can latch. We did that at the birth center where I gave birth, and we did both boobs. We did one boob, and then we took pictures and everything, and then we did another boob to make sure that he didn't have any issues with either side, and he didn't. He did great with both. But we went home, okay? We came home, and he would not feed for 14 hours, y'all. I was waking him up every 2 hours like you're supposed to when they're first born. We'll get into that in a minute. And he would not feed. He wouldn't eat. He would like go to sleep on the boob. And I called my midwife and I was like, I'm struggling. My baby he's not eating. He's not feeding. Like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like, Amber, he's exhausted. Like, he just went through labor with you. He's just as tired as you are. I'm like, I beg to differ. I'm sure I'm more tired than him. But anyways, he did just come to the earth, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But anyways, so she's like, trust me, whenever he's hungry, he will tell you. And I was like, okay. So he did. Like, after 14 hours of not eating anything, he was hungry, and he has not stopped eating since then. So if your baby, for the first 24 hours, your baby is going to have they are trying to rest and relax and rejuvenate just like you are. They also went through labor. So that being said, don't freak out if your baby is not eating that much for the first 24 hours. Now after that, if they're not eating, then obviously you need to, consult someone. But anyways, that was just my experience. 14 hours later, he starts eating, and he's been great ever since then. Okay, so now let's talk about colostrum, because a lot of people don't know what colostrum is. Now colostrum is the precursor to breast milk. So whenever you're leaking during pregnancy and you've got stuff coming out of your nipples, that is not breast milk. You're like, oh my gosh, my milk's coming out. No, it's not. It's colostrum. But anyways, so the definition of colostrum is it contains large antibodies, a large number of antibodies that help protect the mucous membranes in the throat, lungs, and intestines. And leukocytes are also present in large numbers, and they protect babies from viruses and bacteria. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's so important. So when you give that first feed at birth, it's going to be colostrum. It's not going to be breast milk. The other thing to note is that if you are expelling, so you're going to be feeding on one boob, and then you're going to probably have some leakage coming out from this side because your supply is not regulated. We'll get into that in a minute. It's not going to look the same as your milk is, okay? So just know that whatever's coming out of your boobs is normal. It's natural. It's not going to look, you've never had anything come out of your boobs before, so nothing's going to look normal to you. But just know that the first few days is going to be colostrum. Now, your milk is not, your milk's going to come in, and you're going to know it. It's what they call being engorged. You're going to wake up one day, you're going to have porn star boobs, or it's going to happen in a few hours, okay? This happened to me overnight. I woke up and my boobs are like, bing, my milk was in. But that being said, everyone that I talked to said that it took them 2 to 3 days for their milk to come in. Okay, your milk can take up to 6 days to come in, okay? Mine took 5.5, 6 days. So I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, my milk's not, my boobs are still normal. They're just they're normal little consistency. So I was freaking out, but that is okay. Your milk will come in when your milk comes in. It usually will take anywhere from 0 to 6 to 7 days, and that's okay. Now let me tell you, babies' tummies are so tiny when they are born, okay? They are so small. Day 1, it's the size of a cherry, okay? Like a small little cherry. It's 1 to 1.5 teaspoons. So your baby is not eating a lot when they're this small. They are so tiny, y'all, that they don't need a lot, okay? So the colostrum that's coming in when they're eating is enough for them. I know that you can't see it, like that's so hard for some people because you can't physically see the milk coming out of your boob into the baby. And so a lot of people will be like, I just want to pump and put it in a bottle and then feed them. Okay, again, your own prerogative, but I suggest not to do that, okay? So day 1, size of a cherry. Day 3, size of a walnut. This is 1 ounce, okay? 1 ounce of milk, which is like this much. About a week, it's about the size of a cutie orange, so about 1.5 to 2 ounces. And then at 1 month, it's the size of a large egg. So anywhere from like 3 to 5 ounces, just depending on the baby. Okay, so this being said, until they're a month old, their tummy is smaller than an egg. So think about that. They don't need a lot to survive, okay? They're like this big, y'all. They're this big. So just know that whatever's coming out of your boobs into their mouth is what they need, okay? So we talked about, well, when raw milk come in, like I said, you'll probably know this because a lot of women will get engorged and they've got like veins coming out and it looks like scary. Okay, don't pump. Don't pump. That's okay. Like your boobs are going to get huge and that is totally fine. Just go with it and just feed your baby, okay? And when that milk comes in, they're going to be like, oh, here we go, here we go. And they're going to start eating like crazy. So they're like, boom, 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 feed, feed, feed. Like literally the first few weeks of their life, all they want to do is be attached to your boobs. And that is so great. It promotes bonding. It promotes independence later on. It promotes good sleep. It promotes good metabolism. It promotes like everything good that is in the world. It promotes that, okay? So just know that it's just so, so, so important and so special. Okay, so how do you know when a baby is hungry and how do you know when they're full? First of all, you do not want to let babies get pissed off, okay? So you've got like stages of when they get hungry. So first, they're gonna just be like awake. Now at first, when they're like 2 weeks old, they're just like a little potato. They don't do anything. They literally wake up, cry a little bit, eat, go to sleep. Wake up, cry a little bit, eat, go to sleep. Literally, that's all they do. It's like the most boring thing ever. If I could go back, I would tell my husband to not take paternity leave those first 3 weeks and wait until he was like a month old whenever it really hits the fan. Because then they're like awake and they need more and da-da-da-da. So anyways, that's just my little tidbit of what I wish I would have done. Okay, so your baby is going to tell you when they're hungry. Now there are hunger cues, and I have a lot of this information saved on my Instagram in my highlights. So I actually have a video of Kingsley whenever he is hungry and he is like pawing at the boob. He's like trying to look for it and he's got his hands and his hands are clenched like crazy pants, okay? That is a good sign that babies are hungry. Their fist will be clenched. When they're not hungry and they're full, their fist will start to relax and their hands are open and they just kind of like relax a little bit. So if they're like this, that's a good sign that they're hungry. If they're like this, it's a good sign that they're full. They're also, again, going to be rooting. It's what they call rooting, where they're like looking for the boob, doing this number. Kingsley would literally do this with his head, and like we call him bobblehead because of that. Hopefully that nickname wears off because it's not very cute. Okay, so again, I have videos of Kingsley whenever he's hungry versus whenever he's full, and it is night and day difference. Speaking of Kingsley, he's awake, so I'm gonna go grab him real quick and be right back. Okay, so he was supposed to sleep for a lot longer than this. That's okay. He's awake. He'll be here for the video. That's okay. Okay, where was I? So, babies can't overeat, okay? If they're breastfed babies, they know when they're full, they know when they're hungry, and they're gonna be the ones to tell you that. So don't be afraid of your baby eating all the time. That is what we call cluster feeding, okay? So the thing with schedules, okay, there's so many things about schedules. Again, one of the things I wish I could go back and do is just not worry about stuff and not stress out about like, did my baby eat every 2 hours whenever it was nighttime, and every 3 hours whenever it was daytime, which by the way is the recommendation, every 3 hours during the day and every 2 hours at night. until they're about 2 months old. Hey, baby. It's okay. We're doing a video. We're doing a video, okay? Are you hungry? Oh. This is why I didn't change my shirt, because I knew it was going to be pointless. Okay. We're just going to keep on going, y'all, because if I start over, this is 15 minutes of me wasting my time. So, let me just grab a little rag here, and we're just going to keep it moving. Oh, good. See, this is real life. Baby, I'm glad you're showing them this. But see, look how cute he is. So you can't, like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. You know that quote? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try to keep talking while I do all this, or y'all are going to get disinterested and log off. And I really think that there's a lot of information in here that will help you. If you just bear with me, y'all. Just let me get all this spit up off everything, and then I'll keep going. Okay, so when babies are born, they're born a certain weight, obviously, right? They have a mass. So they're going to be weighed, and they're going to lose weight at first, okay? So for the first few days, they're going to lose weight, and that's okay. Now, if you have an epidural, there is research that shows... What is that face for? If you have an epidural, there is research that shows that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, babies can have... Not an epidural. Well, yeah, an epidural. If you have fluids, if you have IV fluids, there's research that shows that sometimes baby will come out a little bit heavier than normal because they have water weight from all the fluids. Not always, it's only sometimes, and they usually will account for that, but I've heard stories of moms saying that, like, the pediatrician was worried because they lost so much weight, but it actually wasn't, like, real weight that they lost, it was that water weight. But babies are going to lose weight, okay, no matter what, when they're first born. Just because they were I'm not going to go into it. They're going to lose weight. Now, they may lose up to 10% of their weight in the first few days, and that's okay. Now, just to note, by the time that they're 2 weeks old, they will have a 2-week appointment with their pediatrician, or you can just do it yourself. You have a scale, step on it, weigh yourself, and without him or her, and then put your baby on your chest, and then step on, and then subtract the difference, and that's how much they weigh. Now, when they're really first born, it really matters as far as ounces go, so that's not super, super accurate, but they have, like, baby scales and things that you can order if you're really into that, or just go to your pediatrician and be like, hey, weigh him. It's different if you deliver at a hospital versus a birth center. Like, we did a birth center, and they came to our house at 24-hour visit because we went home after I had him, like, 4 hours later, versus in the hospital. You're there for a long time usually, and they'll weigh them there. Okay, so in the first, at 2 weeks, they should be back up to their birth weight. So, like, Kingsley was 6'12", I think, 6'12", 6'13". I'm obviously not a mom that remembers details like that, so... Anyway, so he was like 6'12". Now, whenever he went for his 1-week appointment, he was already up to that birth weight. So he was eating real, real good, okay? Now, I feel like I was talking about cluster feeding, and then I got, like, sidetracked. So, maybe not. Maybe I'll get to that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, cluster feeding. What you hear is, like, feeding on command, feeding on demand, or cluster feeding. All of those things mean the same thing, pretty much. So what's going to happen is your baby is going to be hungry at different intervals, and they're going to have energy to eat certain amounts at certain times a day. He likes to stick his fingers in his mouth and choke himself, y'all. It's just like a cause and effect thing. I'm letting him learn on his own. That's what he's doing over here. So if you see him gagging, that's fine. Okay, so cluster feeding is basically where your baby is going to tell you whenever they're hungry, right? You're going to learn all of this. Like, it's not going to be on day one, but now Kingsley has certain cries, and I literally know which cry means he needs what. That's crazy to say, but, like, you just know. When you're spending all this time with this little thing, you learn everything because they can't talk to you. The only way they can communicate is through their body language and through their cries. Okay, so cluster feeding can range from, like, some people say, like, oh, it goes away after a month, or it goes away after 2 months, or whatever. Like, Kingsley will feed all day long, 24/7, and then sometimes he'll go, like, every 3 or 4 hours without eating. We went to the beach, and he went 5 hours without eating. I think it was 6 hours. My boobs were, like, about to explode. So, that being said, cluster feeding is just going to be by baby. It's just going to be variations, okay? So, there's, like, this... there's a visualization that I like to use, and it's a string of pearls, which is obviously, like, very evenly spaced, and the pearls are all the same. And then there's a string of blueberries, and blueberries are all shapes and all sizes, and they're close together and far apart, and close together and far apart. And that is what cluster feeding is. Cluster feeding is just your baby may go a few hours, or your baby may eat and then go 10 minutes and then want to eat again, and then go 15 minutes and want to eat again, and then go 3 hours and want to eat again. Like, you see what I mean? So cluster feeding is inevitable, and you're going to be tired, and that's going to be fine. Okay, so I just wanted to say what cluster feeding is, what feeding on command is, what feeding on demand is. And I do that all the time. Like, people, if I had to send Kingsley to daycare right now, right, he's almost 4 months old, and they said, like, when should we feed him? I'd be like, I don't know. I just feed him whenever he needs it. So, yeah. So some people will be like, oh yeah, they usually eat around this time and this time and this time. And I'm like, I don't know. So that being said, I was so adamant about measuring or like keeping track of how long he was eating, how, like which boob it was, and then like how long he was sleeping in between. Don't do that, y'all. Like, it's just going to make you crazy. It'll make you crazy, because then you're going to compare yesterday's stats to today's stats and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just too much. Just, like, go off of your baby. If they're happy, I mean, and they're babies, so, like, they're going to cry, so they're not going to be happy all the time. But, like, unless there's a dire, you're going to know. Like, you'll know in your gut if something's wrong. You're a mom. You're something, even, like, daddies will usually know something is wrong with my baby. If you don't have that gut feeling, everything is fine, okay? My biggest piece of advice is just like, most of the time, everything's fine. There are so many times, y'all, this is so embarrassing, okay? I thought he had this weird thing he would do where he would like cough. I thought he would cough and he was crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's got allergies, okay? And someone was like, no, Amber, that's just like what the sound of a baby crying sounds like. And I was like, are you kidding me? That's embarrassing. Sorry I asked you that. So like, there's gonna be stupid stuff like that. You're gonna learn along the way. It's fine. Most of the time, 98% of the time, everything is just fine, okay? So now look, if you want to keep one of those trackers, there's like an app called Baby Tracker. If you really want to do that and keep a stat and like, just so that you know for your own good how much they're eating and how far along and da-da-da-da, do that if it's for your sanity. But I'm telling you, I thought that was for my sanity, and it was the opposite. It actually was going against my sanity. So anyways, just piece of advice from me. Okay, so usually during the day, they're gonna eat every 3 hours, and then at night they'll eat every 2 hours, at least until they're about 2 weeks old. Once they've hit their birth weight, your pediatrician will probably say, let them sleep as long as they want and only feed them whenever they want you to. Okay, so that's fine and dandy. I set alarms. Kingsley, like for the first 2 weeks, I set alarms and woke up and we fed like on an alarm schedule. I know people that did not do that and their babies are perfectly fine also. Bug. You're gonna keep doing that to yourself. Silly. Gotta let them learn. Okay, so the next thing that people will wonder about is like, how do I know that my baby's getting enough food? Okay, well, for one, like we talked about, all of their body language and things like that. The other thing that you can do is weigh them. So we talked about that. And then lastly, you measure wet diapers, okay? So not poopy diapers, because that can be like a little bit off, but for the most part, for every day of life, so like if they're 1 day old, they should have one wet diaper, and this is 24-hour period, not like during the day. So for a 24-hour period, for the first 24 hours, it should be 1 diaper. For the second 24 hours, it should be 2 diapers, and then 3, and then 4. Now, once they get to about 7 days old, it'll kind of like average out, and they'll go anywhere from 4 to 7 diapers. Okay, Kingsley literally has a wet diaper 24/7. I'm not kidding. If his diaper's wet right now, not gonna change it because I don't care. But if I did, literally I could change it, and then I would sit back down on this ball and it would be wet again. I'm not kidding. Some babies don't pee that much and they poop a lot. Kingsley only poops every 4 days. So it's just, every baby is different, and he's healthy. If you just sat there and was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with your baby. No, there's nothing wrong with my baby. My baby's perfect. Mind your own business. Okay, next. So regulating your supply. How do you do this? What does that even mean, right? Okay, so your milk's gonna come in. Usually day 5, 6, 7, whatever day it is. Maybe it's day 2 for you. That's fine. Boobs are gonna get super full, and the way that you're gonna empty those, like empty that milk out and get that engorgement out, because it can be kind of painful, is your baby. Your baby is going to know, ooh, this is different. This is milk, not colostrum. They're not going to say that in their head, but they're going to know something's different. And they're going to be like, ooh, I want to eat. So they're going to eat, 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 eat. Now, I'm doing this because you need to alternate boobs whenever they're first born, okay? For the first few weeks, it takes a little bit of time for them to regulate your milk supply. They are the ones that are going to tell your body how much milk to make. Not you, not your sister, not your mama. Your baby is in control of that, okay? So just follow their cues, follow their lead, and do what they say. literally, he runs this house, y'all. He runs this house. Don't you, baby? Yeah. His name is Kingsley. King for a reason. That wasn't intentional. Okay, so we're going to switch boobs. Every single time you feed, switch, switch, switch. I have to bounce on this to keep him calm, so I'm sorry if I'm like hard to watch. Just listen if you need to. You don't even have to be watching my face. You can listen to this if you want to. Okay, so switch your boobs every time you feed, and you're going to be like, well, how am I going to remember that? I'm sleep deprived. So a good way to remember is to get a ponytail holder, like a little, this is not a ponytail, it's a diffuser bracelet, but imagine it's a ponytail. If I fed on this boob, I would put my ponytail on my right hand. That way next time he's hungry and he goes to feed, I'm going to switch and feed him on this boob. Now, some people will say to offer the boob, like offer both boobs at each feeding. So the way that some people will explain it is breakfast, you're going to have like a 5-course meal, 3-course meal. You're going to feed them the appetizer and the meal on one boob, and then offer dessert on this boob, okay? I didn't do that. That was too much for me. It was like already, I was sleep deprived and I didn't know which, no. I was like, nah, screw that. Didn't do it. You can do it if you want to. Now, your boobs are never empty, y'all. That is one thing you need to know. It's not like a cup that you get and it's full and your baby eats it and it goes out like this and you're like, oh, boob's empty, fill me back up. That's not how the body works. So if someone says like, which boob is empty? Not the case. That's not a thing. But I know what they mean by that. Anyways, the other thing is if you're using a haka, okay? Do you know what a haka is? If you don't, it's this. There are different variations of a haka, but basically what this is to catch your milk from your other boob whenever you're feeding. So when your milk first comes in, your body's going to be like, oh my gosh, there's a baby attached to me. I need to like get some milk out. So he's going to be feeding on one boob. Say he's on the left side. I'm going to have milk probably dripping out of my right boob. Not everyone has different supplies, but for the most part at the beginning, your other boob is going to leak. So you can attach this little haka to that side and collect all that milk. And what that's going to do is that is going to, let me switch him around real quick. Go back to sleep. You need to sleep some more. That was not a good nap. So what you're going to do is you're going to use that haka to collect the breast milk from your other boob, okay? Now, the thing you want to be careful about is that you don't want your body to think you have twins, okay? What that means is if you have twins, both your babies are going to be eating. So you're going to have like baby A, baby B, right? And you're going to be feeding them constantly. And your body's going to make enough milk for twins because you have twins. If you put this on your boob and you suction it so tight that your body thinks there's a baby on there, it's going to make double the amount of milk that it needs. You're always going to be engorged and you're going to be miserable. People are like, oh, I want to like stock up on milk and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, if you need to go back to work in a week, perfect. That is fine. Do that. But just so you know, when you do go back to work, you're going to be having a pump around the clock because your boobs are going to be so full of milk that they think you have twins, and that's what's going to happen, okay? So regulating your supply. Your baby will do that. One way you can do that is switching boobs every feed. Offer both breasts at every feeding if you want to. So we talked about the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We didn't talk about that. I'm sorry, we talked about appetizer, meal, and dessert. My analogies are a little bit off. And then using the haka. I used the haka for the first few weeks, and now my supply is so regulated that I don't have any leakage from one boob. My body literally makes the exact amount of milk that he needs, okay? Now, some moms will say they leaked and leaked and leaked and leaked, and they had to put nursing pads in there and things like that. I never had that issue, but if you have an oversupply and you do, well then use the haka. Catch all that milk. Otherwise, it's just going to leak through onto a burp cloth or whatever, and you're going to have wasted milk. You can use this milk. A lot of people, which brings me to my next thing, is foremilk versus hind milk, okay? So what does that mean? I didn't know any of this, y'all, until like a few weeks after he was born. So if you don't know any of this and you're like, I have 3 kids, I don't even know what this is. That's fine. You're fine. Your baby has obviously made it this far, so they're good. So foremilk is the milk that comes out at the beginning, so like before, and hind milk is the little bit more fatty milk that comes out next, okay? So like a lot of times, if you see your milk has a different color, and that's another topic, but your milk can have different colors. So if you have bluish tint to your milk, that's usually a sign that it's the foremilk or the beginning milk that doesn't have a lot of fat in it. Still has fat, still very beneficial, just doesn't have as much fat as the hind milk. Now, the next thing is that you may have red milk, which just means that you have blood in the milk, and they call it strawberry milk sometimes, and that is actually safe for the baby to eat. Any color milk, unless it's, I think, brown or black or something, is safe for the baby to eat, okay? So just know that. If you see, and I have a graphic on my Instagram as well that you can go and look at and to see what color breast milk means what. Okay, so we're talking about regulating our supply. We're talking about using the Haka. Now, some moms are like, oh, I'm going to pump my other boob while my baby is on one of them eating. I don't recommend that because, again, that's the whole twin situation. Again, your body's going to think that you have twins. It's going to make double the amount of milk that you need, okay? So there is that. I think that's all about regulating your supply. I feel like I'm missing something, maybe not. I wish this was like a live so that y'all could be commenting and telling me what I'm missing, but I didn't want to like get on that. We talked about not getting too wrapped up in how long baby feeds on each boob because they're just going to do what they need and what they want. So he's getting a little bit hungry, but I really don't want to have to feed him right now, so let's just see if he'll survive. If he doesn't, I'll whip the boob out and we'll get to that. You see his little eyebrows? Like, he is so extra. Okay. Now, some people will talk about supplementing with formula, okay? Now, you can have a low supply. Sometimes you just are born with a low, like you're just a mom that has a low supply. What is happening, baby? What's wrong? Can mommy finish this video? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, mommy's gonna finish the video and then she'll feed you. See, he's trying to eat my face. That's a good sign that he's hungry. Okay, I may have to go ahead and feed him real quick, but I don't want my nipple to be in this video, so I'm gonna try real hard to not let that happen. If you see it, close your eyes. Okay, let me hide myself real quick. Now, y'all, if this was like weeks ago, I would not have been able to do that. Just what I did, just like whip the boob out, stick him on with like basically one hand, not possible. It gets easier, okay? At day 7, I wanted to throw in the towel. I wanted to quit. I did not want to breastfeed anymore, and I was over it because my nipples were so sore. That is another thing I wanted to talk about. Glad I said that. So, your nipples are going to be sore. You have never had a little human, I mean, yeah, you never have. You've never had a little human that needs your boobies 24/7, and your nipples are going to be red, they're going to be sore, they're going to hurt. That is okay. Now, there's a difference between a normal hurt and sore versus your baby has an issue like a latch issue or whatever, and I can't get into all of that. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about tongue and lip ties in this video, so if you're waiting on that, go ahead and just assume that I'm not going to talk about it because it's kind of long. I don't want this to be too long. So give your nipples a break. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're going to introduce a passy. And I know people are like, nipple confusion. Just so you know, that's not a thing. If you believe in that, that's fine. I believe in Jesus. I know he's real, but I know that nipple confusion is not. So take with that what you want. Believe what you want. But babies are smarter than that. They know that nothing is coming out of that passy, so they know that that's not a boob. Kingsley, if I try to stick a passy in his mouth, he'll literally scream at me and like spit it out if he's hungry, because he's like, no girl, that's not what I want, because he knows that it's not a nipple. But when passies come in handy, whenever your baby has eaten your nipples raw and they are bloody and red. If that happens to you, it doesn't happen to everyone. And you just need a break, give them that passy, and that will usually that will help soothe them. Okay, so passies are good for self-soothing. And babies that is one of the main things that needs to happen for them whenever they're first born is sucking. Even now, he's almost 4 months old, and he loves to suck on things. That is just normal and natural for babies, and that is actually an immune response for them. You know how babies like eat everything and stick everything in their mouth? That's actually the body's way, like nature's way that God created us all to stick things in our mouth so that we would get germs in there so that we would naturally fight it with natural immunity. So anyways, topic for another day. Okay, so as far as Passy goes, I believe in them. I think it's fine. Kingsley does not really take them except for like at night if he's fed and I know that he's not hungry anymore. I just stick the Passy in his mouth to help him go to sleep, and we take it with us in the car for car rides. That's it. Some babies will be attached to that pacifier and it's like hell on earth trying to get them weaned off of it. And if that's you, I'm sorry. I don't have any tips for you because that's just not the case with us. Also, we're still really young, so we may cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, and then I talked about milk being different colors and different things. Storing your milk. Okay, so I do want to talk about this really quickly. You can store your milk different ways. So like I said, for the first few weeks, I did the Haka. That was the only thing that I had attached to my boob besides this baby, which helps regulate my supply, but it also caught some milk. What are you doing? Child, chill. You are fine. A little crazy baby. Okay, so I would catch my milk in there, and then I would put it in this little container. These are on my Instagram. And I would store it in the fridge until I got enough for a bottle. And then I would get enough for a bottle, and then I would transfer it to a bag. And that is what I have down here. Oh gosh, a bag of milk. This has 3 ounces in it. See how it's really flat? So a hack, fill up the milk and then lay it on its side and stick it in the freezer, and then you can store them, boom, 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 a lot skinnier and a lot more will fit versus just setting it down like this and then you have like a big clump at the bottom. I also just realized that in regards to sore nipples, I did want to talk about a couple of things. I did a video on newborn must-haves. It's on my YouTube channel. And you can check it. And it has a lot of stuff for breastfeeding that I recommend for pain as far as nipples go and things like that. Creams and all kinds of like heating and cooling and all that goodness. So that's in a whole different video. But the pain will subside. It will go away. And you can do it. So it's going to be a little bit painful at first. Just know that. It's not worse than childbirth. I'll tell you that much. Kingsley Lamont. He's like a wiggle worm, and he tries to like wiggle out of my arms whenever he's eating. It's real crazy. Okay, so storing milk. So you store it in the fridge. You can store it in the fridge for 3 to 8 days, okay? Obviously, the less the better. Then you can store it in the freezer for up to 6 months. And if it's in a deep freeze, you can store it for a year. There is a wonderful website, kellymom.com. I just call her Kelly. I hope I would assume that's her name. It's a website for breastfeeding mamas, and it literally has any question you could ever imagine. It's answered on there, and it's not biased. I don't think I saw any bias anywhere. So yeah. Anyways, so that being said, in regards to storing breast milk and things, Kingsley, baby, eat and be fine. So in regards to storing breast milk, you can store it in these little things. You can store it in the freezer. Now, why would you store milk over here? Well, what happens is you may only get 1 ounce or whatever of extra milk whenever you're feeding, right? That's okay. Save it until you get 2 or 3 ounces and then put it in a bag and then put it in the freezer. Now, in regards to that, your milk consistency is different versus in the AM versus the PM. So the consistency of hormones, okay? So like at night, the breast milk has melatonin in it. In the morning, it has more cortisol in it. So if you give a baby breast milk later that you pumped at 10 p.m. and you give that to them in the morning, they're going to be sleepy. Versus if you give them something that you pumped or you got in your Haka milk from 8 a.m. and you give it to them at 10 p.m. and you want them to go to sleep, good luck. They're not going to go to sleep. So if you noticed on my bag, it's down there, it says 10 p.m. And I know that whenever I thaw out that milk to give it to him later in a bottle, later down the road, I'm going to give it to him around 10 p.m. or in that vicinity. It doesn't have to be perfect, but either way. Kingsley, chill out, baby. Okay, so storing milk, we talked about that. I have a sheet that you can screenshot. It's on my Instagram under breastfeeding tips. I have a breastfeeding tips 1, breastfeeding tips 2, because I had so much to say, I guess. And now I'm making this video, so you're welcome. Okay, so storing it, label it, make sure you're doing that because of all the hormones. I don't think I'm going to talk about transitioning to the bottle right now because this is already almost 40 minutes long. I'll talk about that in a different actually, I think that's the last thing I want to talk about. So let me go ahead and talk about it. Okay. So exclusively breastfeeding means only feeding from your boobie. That's it. Nothing else. There's no bottle introduced. There's no nothing else. The longer you can go, the better. Okay. So if you are on maternity leave and you have 12 weeks, then I would try and breastfeed 11 weeks and then introduce a bottle that last week. And then that way they have time to transition and da-da-da-da. Okay. So it's up to you. I'm staying at home right now. I'm not working, so I'm exclusively breastfeeding. We do a bottle every once in a while if I want a break or if I need to go get my nails done or something. We have yet to stay a night away from him. Don't even know when that will happen. So if you can, exclusively breastfeed for 4 to 6 weeks. That's when your body will regulate your supply, okay? What's really cool about regulating your supply is that, like, say your baby is starting to self-wean, which is another topic for another day, way later down the road, and say they're 12 months old and they're self-weaning and they only want to feed at nighttime when it's time to go to bed. Your body will literally only produce milk at nighttime when it's time for them to go to bed. Like, your body will do that. It's crazy what our bodies are made naturally to do. So when you introduce a bottle, there are different bottles that you can get. This is the one that we use. It's a Komotomo. It's shaped like the boob. Now, I will tell you, there's a lot of research that shows that now they've showed that these nipples are actually not as beneficial for the babies as just the regular long nipple that come just like the cheap ones. So just get a regular nipple, y'all. You don't have to have any fancy bottle. Your baby will pretty much eat from whatever, but if they have issues, it'll be better for them with a long nipple versus the shorter one. It's actually like not that, even though it's shaped like a boob, it doesn't act like the boob. So anyways, it's a whole nother thing. So whenever you start introducing a bottle, I suggest doing 1 bottle a day. So like only 1. That way babies will sometimes, so eating from the bottle is easier. So sometimes eating from the boob is harder. So what will happen is sometimes your baby will be like, oh, I like the bottle better. Like, see, he's asleep. He just fell asleep. This is called feeding to sleep or comfort nursing, and it's very beneficial for the baby, and Kingsley loves it. So I wanted to talk about that also, that if you, let me not get ahead of myself. Let me finish my talk about bottles. Feed them whatever, out of whatever bottle that you think that they need. Let them try it out. Don't buy 17 bottles of the same brand, because if your baby hates it, then you got 17 bottles that you're never going to use. Whenever you are trying to do the bottle situation, whenever you give them a bottle, then you pump. That way your body still thinks that the baby needed milk for that time. Otherwise, your body's going to make less milk. So if you start to do 1 bottle a day for a couple of days, then you can increase it and then increase it and increase it. But basically with anything breastfeeding, start slow. Give your baby time to adjust, and don't let them prefer the bottle over the boob. That's when paced bottle feeding comes in handy. So look that up on YouTube if you want. Whenever someone's going to be feeding your baby with a bottle, they need to know what paced bottle feeding is, because your baby's going to suck it right down. Versus on the boob, it doesn't leak out like a nipple does. They have to work for it. So, okay, and then what was I just saying that I was trying not to think about? This is where my brain goes, all different places. And I was trying to keep this less than like 45 minutes, but we're almost there. So, increasing your supply and decreasing your supply. Now, look, my supply has been pretty much perfect since day 1, and I have not had any issues, so I have not researched that. Kelly Mom has a really, really great page on all of that. If you're trying to increase your supply, there are so many different ways that you can do that. One of the easiest ways that you can do that is pumping while your baby is feeding, because again, that will tell your body you need double the supply that it's making. So if you have a low milk supply, whenever you are feeding, pump on that other boob, and that will tell your body to make double the milk, which is great. Now, whenever it's time for your baby to wean themselves and you're trying to wean off of the bottle or whatever, then that's going to be a whole different situation. And I'm not going to talk about that right now because we're still breastfeeding. I'll do another video whenever we wean off. Now, there are 2 essential oils. There is lemongrass oil, which will help to increase your milk supply. And then, what's the one to decrease? Oh, peppermint. So peppermint has been shown to decrease blood supply. So if you're using peppermint and you're breastfeeding, be very, very careful. I try not to use peppermint at all just because I don't really want to mess with it. Every once in a while, if I'm super desperate and I have to use it for like head tension, then I do. Otherwise, I don't. Lemongrass is supposed to help boost your supply, and I just started using that 2 nights ago. So I will let y'all know in a couple of days or a week or so if I notice a difference in that. So yeah, you can use different oils and things like that to help with your breastfeeding. Now look, that's really all that I think I want to talk about because I've already gone too much. Well, no, did I finish the pumping thing? So yeah, so like if you introduce the bottle, just do it a little bit at a time. I know some babies, I've heard some babies that will say, some moms that will say that their babies, once you introduce the bottle, they never wanted to latch back onto the boob again, and you have to work hard to make that happen again. Okay. The other thing that I was just about to talk about that I thought about was formula, and supplementing with formula. Now look, for the most part, you will not have to supplement with formula. My pediatrician told me to. I wanted to smack him in the face. Why? Like, your body is making enough milk. Now, I know girls personally that their body does not make enough milk and they do need a supplement, and that is fine. But until your baby is at least 2 or 3 weeks old, you don't even know. Like, you haven't even given your body a chance to make enough milk to regulate that supply. So that is complete BS. And what it does is it decreases a mama's confidence because it makes her think that her body's not doing what it needs to be doing. And that's so annoying and so frustrating. And if someone tells you to supplement with formula, literally had lunch with someone the other day. And I was like, yeah, my son still wakes up every 3 hours to eat. And she was like, oh my gosh, why don't you just supplement with formula? That would probably help put him to sleep. And I was like, I'm just gonna not talk about it because you obviously don't know anything. So the thing is, there are so many myths when it comes to breastfeeding, and it's so annoying. And I wanted to do this video because I wanted to kind of get some of that like off of your chest. And if you think that there's all these things you need to be doing, it can be a lot, but your baby and you are the ones that are going to know what to do. You're gonna have to learn it. Now, this video can help you, but your baby is the best person to tell you what to do. That sounds silly, but I'm serious. The other thing is you have to be confident. If you're not a confident person, you need to be confident in this area of life. Call me and I will be your hype woman. I will hype you up so much because you're gonna need someone that's on your side, because I'm telling you right now, 90% of other women out there are not. They may think that they're trying to be helpful, but really and truly, their words are gonna be more harmful than good. People say stupid stuff all the time. It makes me wanna I will call them out. Most of the time, if someone says something stupid to me, I call them out. I'm like, hey, don't say that. Like, why would you say that to me? Just like whenever you're pregnant and you're talking about giving birth and they talk about their horrible birth experience. Why? Like, why would you? Anyways, so just be confident. Like, for the most part, I'm a pretty confident person, but I lacked a lot of confidence when it came to breastfeeding because I'd never done it before. Just like with anything you've never done before, you're not gonna be confident. Let me just tell you, confidence will take you a long, long way. And my last piece of advice, if you think about, if you're like, I can't do this, I'm done, I'm giving up on breastfeeding, like I did on day 7. I literally remember it like it was yesterday. Day 7, I was done. My nipples were scabbed over. I was in pain. I would cry every time he would latch on. The next day, it was so much better. And so what I have is this agreement with myself and Tez. And what I do is I say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm throwing in the towel. And then we say, okay, let's wake up tomorrow. Let's go to sleep. Let's wake up tomorrow morning. If tomorrow morning you still feel that way, then you've had 24 hours to sleep on it, and that's a decision that you can make, that you can see, you can that you can live with. And then if you wake up tomorrow and you feel like you can do it, then keep on trucking. And that's what will happen. I'm telling you. Yes. Okay. So if you're reading this, if you're listening to this and you're still here at 48-minute mark, I'm so happy that you're still here. I just want you to know that you can do this. You've got this. And if you need a hype woman, message me. I will send you my phone number. You can text me or call me anytime. I'm probably awake, let me just tell you. And I will help you out. There are so many questions when it comes to breastfeeding, but for the most part, trust your gut. Not everything that you receive as far as advice goes, or even stuff that you read, research stuff, may not go along with how your experience is going, and that's okay. So I just say all this to say, I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to do a different video later about his tongue and lip tie situation, how to look for that, how to know that they have it, what to do about it. Should you get surgery? Should you not? What should you do after surgery? All of that. And then I will try and also answer a few more questions that y'all have, but this is already too long of a video, so I'm going to go ahead and go now. Like I said, shoot me a message anytime if you have a question, and I will try to answer to the best of my knowledge, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be very blunt about stuff, and so I just want you to expect that whenever it comes to me answering questions. That's just how I am. I'm very real and upfront about things. So if you want a very honest opinion about something, let me know, because I'm your girl. And for now, we are, well, he's basically asleep. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening.